Tonight, several developing stories as we come on the air. The terrifying moments on board a United jet, hitting severe turbulence as it tried to land. The incident coming as millions pack airports for the holiday rush. Efforts now underway to clear wreckage from the bridge collapse in Baltimore, cutting into the tons of mangled steel. And authorities in several states intensify efforts to crack down on home squatters. First, millions hit the skies and the roads. The TSA already seeing its busiest travel day of the year so far. Travel numbers reaching levels seen at the height of the Thanksgiving and winter holiday rush. Amid the crunch, a flight from Tel Aviv diverted as it tried to land at Newark Airport, hitting severe turbulence. Several passengers treated for motion sickness. The roads also packed despite higher gas prices. Our team tracking it all. The weather expected to have an impact in the West. More than 20 million Americans on alert for potential flooding as a powerful cross-country storm hits Southern California. Winter weather alerts from the California mountains into parts of the Rockies, creating hazardous driving conditions. That system sweeping east, expected to impact the Northeast early next week. Our weather team timing it all out. The unprecedented around-the-clock salvage effort gets underway in Baltimore. Officials bringing in heavy equipment, beginning the process to move millions of tons of wreckage from the Key Bridge. Our team talking to one of the last people to drive over that bridge before it came crashing down, his first television interview. Overseas, the urgent effort to bring aid to Gaza. 3 ships loaded with 400 tons of much-needed food set off from Cyprus amid dire warnings of famine. Britt Clennett from Israel. A determined Pope Francis prepares for Easter Sunday, returning for services amid renewed concerns about his health. The crackdown on housing squatters, New York, Georgia, Alabama, trying to make it easier for homeowners to get their property back, hoping to join Florida in changing the law and criminalize the practice. The Oregon man lucky to be alive, a runaway saw blade coming too close for comfort. And America strong tonight, the young baseball player, what it took for him to reach his field of dreams. His message to live every day to the fullest.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday. I'm Mary Bruce in for Whit Johnson. We begin tonight with a terrifying air scare just as millions hit the roads for the busy holiday weekend. Several people becoming ill after a United Airlines flight headed from Tel Aviv to Newark, New Jersey encountered high winds and turbulence. That flight diverted about 70 miles northward to Stewart International Airport. Some passengers complaining of nausea, motion sickness, and chest pain. That plane eventually refueling and landing at its original destination, Newark International Airport. All this coming as the TSA screens its largest number of passengers of the year so far, more than 2.7 million on Thursday, outpacing travel on the Friday before Christmas and the day before Thanksgiving. And air travel is expected to get even busier as millions take to the skies ahead of the solar eclipse. ABC's Phil Lipoff leads us off tonight from Newark International Airport.
Tonight, airports across the country packed with passengers.
A lot of congestion at times.
The TSA screening more than 2.7 million people Thursday alone heading into the holiday weekend, making it the busiest day this year so far. More passengers than the Friday before Christmas and the day before Thanksgiving last year.
What about the crowds? A lot of people traveling with you?
Yeah. Our plane was definitely more packed than it was going out.
But the holiday weekend not without incident. A United flight from Tel Aviv to Newark making an unscheduled stop, diverting late Friday to Orange County, New York, after encountering heavy turbulence.
Yeah, it's quite windy today, and they said the flight was pretty rough coming in to Newark, but we had multiple ambulances here from New Windsor and multiple surrounding agencies.
In a statement, United saying one passenger deplaned due to a medical incident, and a few other customers were seen by medical personnel for possible motion sickness.
They advised our crew that they had multiple people on the plane complaining of nausea, some chest pain from the turbulence.
The plane eventually making it to Newark. And if you're on the road this weekend, you will spend more on gas. Prices slowly rising through the year, with the average hovering around $3.53 a gallon. That's up 19 cents from last month's average and up 3 cents from this time last year.
And Phil Lipoff joins us from Newark International Airport. And Phil, even before this busy weekend is over, the FAA now with a heads up for next week as well.
Mary, you're right. The FAA predicting that next week will be the busiest of the spring break travel season. And a reminder, as you mentioned, there is a lot of excitement surrounding this total solar eclipse happening on April 8th. Many people making trips just for that. So travelers can expect some limited parking, even delays at airports right along the eclipse's path from Texas to Maine. Mary? It
will be something to see, Phil. Thank you. We turn now to the weather, and millions on alert in the west as a major storm brings flooding and heavy snow. This video capturing the swirling storm closing in on the coast, and heavy snow is slamming the San Bernardino Mountains in Southern California, causing low visibility and stranding drivers. Let's get right to Brittany Bell from our New York station WABC. She's tracking it all. Brittany, time this out for us.
Well, Mary, parts of California will see heavy rain and heavy snow for the rest of the weekend. Let's look at the latest alerts. A flood watch continues for Southern California. Also, winter alerts stretching from California all the way to the Rockies. Look at Arizona, the entire state under a wind advisory. Gusts over 40 miles per hour are possible. So still pretty messy on Easter Sunday out west, but nicer the farther east you go. Spots like Oklahoma City and Nashville, high temperatures near 80 degrees and mainly dry. But the severe threat also moves east on Monday. Numerous severe storms are possible, stretching from Texas all the way to Indiana. They could produce damaging winds, very large hail, and tornadoes. Mary?
Okay, Brittany, thank you. We move on now to the urgent salvage and recovery efforts in Baltimore. These massive cranes are now being used to remove wreckage from the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Crews are working around the clock after the deadly bridge disaster. And tonight, we're hearing from a motorist who says he was one of the last to cross the bridge before it collapsed. Here's ABC's Jay O'Brien.
Tonight, 5 days after the collapse, the first pieces of debris of the Francis Scott Key Bridge blocking Baltimore Harbor now in the process of being removed. The start of a grueling process. Divers and other crews preparing to cut up pieces of the tangled steel to be lifted out of the water. That task made more difficult by dangerous debris. Sharp metal and electrical wires sent flying when that container ship lost power, colliding with the bridge.
We're talking about wreckage. We're talking about pieces of the Key Bridge that are in the water.
State leaders unable to say when the closed port tied to 8,000 jobs will reopen, saying their focus is on recovering the bodies of 4 missing construction workers presumed dead. That blocked off vital roadway, leaving people like Larry DeSantis, the head baker at Herman's Bakery, in the lurch. Every day for 16 years, Larry taking the Key Bridge back and forth, commuting in the overnight hours between his 2 jobs. Larry telling us he was one of the last people to cross that bridge just before its collapse.
What was it like seeing that video?
Yeah, it was. Well, like I said, it makes me think. You know, I mean, I'm really lucky.
You're lucky to be alive.
No, exactly. I mean, if I had been 1 minute later, I wouldn't be here.
Locals here still reeling. Pam Rigby, one of the several catching their first glimpses today of the Baltimore skyline without the Key Bridge.
It's different from seeing it on TV than
seeing it in real life.
Yeah. Right. Even though we're far away, you still feel it.
This collapse having such a huge impact on this community. Jay O'Brien joins us live from the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And Jay, what is the latest in the search for the missing workers?
Mary, the remains of 2 of those construction workers have been recovered, but divers have had to temporarily suspend the search for the others because of how dangerous officials say conditions have been out here on the water right now. Clearing all of this remaining debris is essential to that ongoing search effort. Mary?
And we, of course, are thinking of their families tonight. Jay, thank you. And tune into This Week tomorrow morning. Martha Raddatz speaks with Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen about those recovery efforts in Baltimore. And overseas now, in late word tonight that ceasefire talks are set to resume tomorrow between Hamas and Israel. This as President Biden faces criticism for continuing to send billions of dollars in bombs and fighter jets to Israel as part of a longstanding agreement. And as a 3-ship convoy heads to Gaza to deliver food and other supplies amid concerns of starvation in the region. ABC's Britt Clennett in Tel Aviv tonight.
Tonight, the Biden administration sending a new round of weapons for Israel, despite a rift over an anticipated military offensive in southern Gaza. President Biden reportedly greenlighting billions of dollars worth of weapons as part of a long-standing agreement. The Washington Post reporting that the new arms transfer include 2,000-pound bombs linked to air attacks in Gaza, causing mass casualties. Some Democrats had been urging Biden to halt U.S. military support until Israel allows the delivery of desperately needed aid into Gaza, where the UN warns famine is imminent. It comes as a convoy of aid ships set sail today for Gaza, carrying 400 tons of food. UNICEF spokesperson James Elder speaking to me by phone, saying not nearly enough aid is getting in.
Malnutrition ward, like children that are paper thin, mothers and grandmothers, and they are standing over these desperately emaciated children. Yet there is a crossing 10-15 minutes away. This is what's so frustrating.
On the streets of Gaza, children sell whatever they can to stave off hunger. Mohammed saying he's trying to make money so my brothers and I can eat. Speaking from a makeshift camp in Rafah, Nima Ashur's family are among the 1.3 million displaced people who could be evacuated if there is an Israeli land invasion, the city already facing Israeli bombardment.
You don't know when you are going to be attacked. Our neighbors has been killed. They were sleeping peacefully and they were killed. So each night we think we might be the next.
Mary, Israel says its goal is to destroy Hamas's capabilities, and we're told a delegation will leave for Cairo tomorrow for talks with Hamas again about releasing those hostages and a ceasefire. Mary?
All eyes will be on those talks. Britt, thank you. Pope Francis is back on the job today, presiding over the Easter Vigil. That's after skipping a Good Friday procession to preserve his health ahead of the busy Easter Sunday. The 87-year-old pontiff has faced multiple health issues in recent months and now needs a wheelchair or a cane to move around. Here's ABC's Inez de la Catera.
Tonight, Pope Francis presiding over the solemn Easter Vigil on Holy Night in Rome. Close to 6,000 people packing St. Peter's Basilica.
Ascoltiamo con cuore sereno la parola di Dio.
The Pope sitting most of the time, earnestly delivering a 10-minute homily, and in the darkened cathedral, stepping back into the spotlight after skipping the Way of the Cross procession at the last minute on Good Friday. The Vatican says to preserve his health ahead of the weekend's events. The Pope shaking hands, smiling, looking sprightly as he left Saturday's service. The pontiff is 87 years old and suffers from mobility and respiratory issues. Just last month, he contracted the flu and was taken to the hospital for tests, but the Pope maintains he has no serious ailments. This week, he appeared to be in good health, reading his prepared remarks in full on Wednesday and washing the feet of women prisoners on Holy Thursday, performing the ritual of service from his wheelchair.
Indulgentia veniat, consolatio tribuatur.
And earlier Friday, leading a 2-hour service at St. Peter's Basilica.
And we're also expecting to see the Pope deliver a message of hope and peace at Mass tomorrow for Easter Sunday. He's set to offer his blessings to a packed St. Peter's Square and to over 1 billion Catholics around the world. Mary?
Okay, Inez, thank you. Back here in the U.S., a growing crisis in America, squatters versus homeowners. It's prompting some states to crack down. Florida now the first state to criminalize squatting. The question, will others soon follow? More now from ABC's Jacqueline Lee.
Tonight, the growing crackdown on squatting. New York, Georgia, and Alabama working on legislation to join Florida in criminalizing the Brazen Act this week.
You are not going to be able to commandeer somebody's private property and expect to get away with it.
Nationwide, squatter laws vary state to state with no nationwide enforcement directive. If a homeowner discovers a squatter, law enforcement's hands are tied because it's considered a civil matter.
If you touch me again.
2 moms in Los Angeles found this out the hard way after a squatter commandeered this $3 million property down the street.
You know, it's a constant problem. They're around, they're helping themselves to neighbors' packages.
In New York City, under state law, a squatter is considered a tenant after 30 days. And because it's a landlord-tenant dispute, the homeowner is forced into a lengthy court process to evict them. One squatting incident in New York turned into a murder investigation. A 52-year-old woman found in a duffel bag after discovering squatters in her late mother's vacant apartment.
Squatters are self-entitled, criminal-type people.
Flash Shelton, who calls himself the squatter hunter, says he helps homeowners across the country get rid of squatters by moving in with them and out squatting the squatter.
I own a home, and you're telling me someone can just come in and set up shop and they don't have to leave?
Yeah, I've had many cases where people are just on vacation. You call the police and they just say, look, I live here, and you have a civil matter on your hands.
Mary, when a homeowner takes a squatter to court, it can take years and thousands of dollars just to get them evicted. What the new Florida law does is it distinguishes between a tenant and a squatter, allowing law enforcement to remove the squatter immediately. It goes into effect July 1st. Mary?
Such a challenge to address this growing problem. Jacqueline, thank you. Now to an emotional day here in New York. Thousands of mourners gathered to pay their final respects to fallen NYPD officer Jonathan Diller. He was gunned down earlier this week during a routine traffic stop in Queens. NYPD officers joining the procession to a church in Long Island. Diller, a 3-year NYPD veteran, leaves behind a wife and a 1-year-old son. There is still much more ahead here on World News Tonight this Saturday. The dramatic rescue in the Gulf of Mexico, the Coast Guard pulling a lone kayaker to safety, and the terrifying near miss captured on camera. Why one Oregon man is lucky to be alive. Next tonight, a dramatic rescue in northern Florida. The Coast Guard locating a missing kayaker in the Gulf of Mexico after an exhaustive hours-long search. Crew members rappelling from a helicopter to reach him. Friends and first responders aiding in the search for Chris Smelly, a former South Carolina quarterback and father of 4 who is expected to recover. And staying in Florida, 10 people were rescued when their airboat flipped over in Everglades National Park. Officials say the boat turned suddenly, causing the passengers to fall into the water, the boat then landing on its side. One person was treated at the scene for minor injuries. The airboat operator was arrested. Officials say he lacked the proper certification. And an Oregon man is shaken but alive after a really close call. Take a look. A surveillance camera shows the man walking into a convenience store. Just behind him, a massive 4-foot-long saw blade violently rolling in his path. The impact so powerful it shook the store. A local natural gas company says the blade appears to have come loose during a repair. Quite a close call. And when we come back, nearly $1 billion up for grabs as tonight's Powerball lottery jackpot soars. And we'll superstar Clark and her Iowa Hawkeyes keep dancing. The news just coming in straight ahead. To the index now in the march to the Final Four. This afternoon, the number 3 LSU Lady Tigers pulling off an upset of number 2 UCLA, coming from behind in the game's thrilling final minutes. And just before we came on the air, Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes dominating number 5 Colorado to keep dancing. Clark playing in her final collegiate season, hoping to avenge last year's loss in the title game. And who wants to be an almost billionaire? Tonight's Powerball jackpot is a cool $935 million. No one has matched all 6 numbers since New Year's Day. Time to get those tickets. And when we come back, the young first baseman's return to his team. Why it's about more than just baseball. And finally tonight, America Strong, the young man who's faced the toughest of challenges, returning to his field of dreams. Since he was a young boy, Jacob Fagundes has loved baseball, the field like a second home to him.
It's kind of like my comfort place. It's a place where I feel understood. I feel like I belong.
This week, the 17-year-old was back on the field playing for the El Diamante High School Miners. That hit an extraordinary feat. For the past 4 years, Jacob has been fighting for his life after being diagnosed with a rare blood cancer.
I took it hard, but my goal the entire time was just to get back on the ball field.
Jacob's coach has nothing but admiration for him.
Jacob's a warrior. He's been through more than any of these boys can even consider or think about.
I just told myself I'd rather it be me than someone I love.
After half a dozen rounds of chemotherapy, Jacob went into remission. But then another curveball came his way.
I got re-diagnosed, and I'm like, okay, round 2, but I'm going to get back out there.
To beat the cancer this time, doctors told Jacob he needed a bone marrow transplant. Luckily for him, his older brother, Joey, turned out to be a perfect match.
My brother got to save my life, and he's a big reason why I get to come out here every day.
After 4 years keeping his passion for baseball and hope alive, he returned as first baseman.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to wake up and play this game every day.
Tonight, Jacob sharing this message.
Something I learned from this journey is to never take life for granted. You got to live every day like it's your last, because you never know when it will be. And keep swinging for the fences.
Keep swinging for those fences, Jacob. Thank you for watching. I'm Mary Bruce. Have a great night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.